A little girl stood at the edge of a crowded park, her white cane trembling in her small hand, her eyes unfocused but her heart wide open. She could not see the man sitting alone on the bench ahead of her, but somehow she knew exactly where to run. And when her tiny arms wrapped around a stranger's neck, nobody watching that day could have guessed the secret he was hiding or how far his kindness had already traveled. Before we continue, if stories like this warm your heart, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from. This is Kindness Hub, the place where we bring you real, heartfelt stories about the good still left in this world. Now, let's get back to Emma and the man on the bench. Vivian Marsh was not the kind of woman who visited public parks. As the founder of one of the largest tech companies on the West Coast, her days were filled with board meetings, quarterly reports, and a calendar that left no room for spontaneity. But that Saturday, her daughter Emma had begged her for one thing: fresh air and the sound of the fountain in Lincoln Park. Emma was 8 years old. She had lost her sight to a rare illness 3 years earlier, but she never let it stop her laughter, her curiosity, or her love for people. Vivian watched her daughter carefully from a distance, the way she always did, ready to catch her if she stumbled. But this time, Emma did not stumble. She walked with purpose, her cane tapping rhythmically against the pavement, until she stopped in front of a bench where a man sat quietly, staring at nothing in particular. His name was Daniel Cole. He wore a faded gray jacket, work boots scuffed from years of use, and a look on his face that suggested he had somewhere to be, except he didn't. Not really. Daniel was a single father raising his 6-year-old son Max on his own, working 2 jobs just to keep their small apartment and put food on the table. He came to the park every Saturday because it was the one place Max could run freely, and it cost nothing. What happened next stunned everyone nearby. Emma walked straight to Daniel, stopped in front of him, and said, "You're sad. I can hear it in your breathing." Daniel, startled, looked down at the little girl with the unfocused eyes and the walking cane. Before he could respond, she reached out and hugged him, the way children do when their instincts are purer than any adult's caution. Vivian rushed over, apologizing, trying to pull her daughter back. But Daniel simply smiled, a tired, genuine smile, and said, "It's all right. Nobody's hugged me like that in a long time." Something about his voice made Vivian pause. It wasn't the voice of a stranger looking for anything. It was the voice of a man who had simply forgotten what it felt like to be seen. Over the following weeks, in a way Vivian could not fully explain, her family kept crossing paths with Daniel and his son. Emma insisted on it. Actually, she would ask her driver to take her past the park just to listen for him, as she put it. And little by little, Vivian began to understand what her daughter had somehow known from the very first moment: that here was a good man carrying an invisible weight. She learned, quite by accident, that Daniel was a former Navy SEAL. He never spoke of it. There were no medals on his walls, no stories at dinner parties, because there were no dinner parties in his life anymore. He had left the service after a mission overseas had taken the lives of 2 men under his command, men he considered brothers. He carried that loss home with him, along with a young son whose mother had passed away not long after Max was born. Daniel built a quiet life out of the wreckage, working construction by day and driving a delivery truck by night, determined that his boy would never know just how close to the edge they sometimes lived. Vivian, a woman who had built an empire out of ambition, found herself humbled by a man who had built a life out of pure, quiet endurance. She began inviting Daniel and Max over, first for simple dinners, then for holidays. Emma and Max became inseparable, 2 children who understood loss and resilience in ways most adults never would. And somewhere in the warmth of shared meals and unhurried Saturday afternoons, Vivian realized that her daughter's blindness had given her something rare: the ability to see people not by appearance or status, but by the truth of who they really were. Vivian used her resources quietly, not with grand gestures or press releases, but with real, practical help. She helped Daniel enroll in a program for veterans transitioning into stable careers. She made sure Max had access to good schools and, more importantly, to a community that cared about him. And in return, Daniel gave her something money could never buy. A reminder of who she used to be before success made her cautious and guarded. Years from that first hug in the park, Emma would often tell people the story of how she met Max's father. She never described what Daniel looked like because she never could. Instead, she described how he sounded patient, gentle, a little bit broken, and entirely trustworthy. She said that was how she always found the good people in this world, not with her eyes, but with her heart. And maybe that is the real lesson in all of this. Kindness does not require perfect eyesight or perfect circumstances. It simply requires the courage to reach out, the way an 8-year-old girl reached out to a stranger on a park bench, not knowing his past, only trusting what her heart could feel. Sometimes the smallest gesture, a hug, a smile, a moment of attention, is enough to change the course of someone's entire life. So today, wherever you are, consider being someone's Emma. Reach out to someone who looks like they are carrying something heavy. You never know the quiet battles people are fighting, and you never know how far a little kindness might travel. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs a reminder that goodness still exists. This has been Kindness Hub. Until next time, keep spreading kindness one small act at a time.